Good evening and a warm welcome to Big Budget Business, where we discuss pertinent issues that we face as young business people and highlight the lives of prolific young entrepreneurs who are making strides in their respective fields. Today we speak to Kgosi Phoi, whose business, Affluent Wealth, is transcending regional boundaries. Mr. Phoi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Big Budge. It's a pleasure to be here, my brother.
Awesome. So, firstly, let's get into the story behind the man. How did you come up to this point of business, and just generally anything you'd like us to know?
I hail from a small town just about 60 kilometers from here called Lobatse. Now, I like to describe this small town as what Stellenbosch is to South Africa, Lobatse is definitely to Botswana.
Oh, nice.
Now, understand, it's a very, very small and inspiring place. That is actually where I draw the majority of my inspiration from. If you can look at Lobatse's corporate history, about the number of companies that have their foot in there.
Of course.
We have Choppies, we have Motorvac, Flowtech, the list goes on, Alpha Direct and so on and so forth, Orca, Bright Place. So it's hard not to find inspiration from a place like that. Now, when I was growing up, I had a friend. His name was Romeo Kuskas, who lived not too far away from my house. Now, as a 9, 10, 11-year-old, well, we're looking perhaps now just to spend most of our time just playing outside. This is the 90s, the late 90s perhaps, before all the social media and so on and so forth, where now we're spending a lot more time outside than we would be inside in any case. So, well, the bigger the merrier in terms of the spacing of the yard, and well, his family happened to have quite a sizable space yard, and then we'd be more than delighted to spend our time going and play there. Now, over time, subconsciously, this was building a lot of curiosity in my mind about, well, how is your family now able to make these sort of acquisitions?
Of course.
And well, we ask him these questions, and he's telling you, well, my parents are in business. Now there's this word called business, and you're 10, 11 years old. What's this business thing that they're talking about? So I become curious at a very young age, and to cement my curiosity, or perhaps maybe to answer it, I have a life-changing experience when I'm about 11 or 12.
Okay.
Now, in the late 90s, Mohaburo, there were no supermalls before Game City and Revoke and so on and so forth. We had African Mall, we had BBS. And on weekends, my family would come down here, maybe just do a little bit of shopping at any of those two, really. Now, this one time, I'm with my mother. We're at BBS. And 11-year-old boy, I'm absolutely in love with my video games and my car, with cars and so on and so forth. There was one car that I was especially in love with. It was Mercedes-Benz's flagship SL500. So as I'm walking around the mall, I spot one, and for the life of me, I'd never imagined I'd spot one. We're seeing it in hip-hop videos and so on and so forth. It's a very exciting time for an 11-year-old. So as I'm making my rounds and I'm checking out this car, there's a gentleman who comes from behind me, taps me on the back and says, "Yeah, man, you like this car?" I said, "Absolutely, I love this car. This is my dream car." He says, "Well, you can have this car one day. You just got to work hard, and I can almost guarantee you a 9 to 5 is not going to earn you this. So perhaps you might want to be in business." Okay. Now here's this word popping up again. Business, what's this business thing? And he ends the conversation and says, "Listen, pop into my office anytime. It's just upstairs from here. And we can have a chat about what this business thing you're asking about is anytime you want."
And he's telling you this as an 11-year-old.
11-year-old. Yes, definitely. So I was very fortunate. I think from that moment on, it was a pivotal time in my business chain, because officially I'd find a mentor at the tender age of 11.
Wow.
I was in.
It's quite lucky, quite fortunate.
Very, very fortunate. And the most fortunate part of it is I was now going to be mentored by the best of the best, because now we're introducing one another. And he says, "What's your name?" I say, "My name is Kgosi." He says, "Oh, pleasure to meet you. My name is Uncle Pax." So I'm 11-year-old. And at the time, I don't know who this gentleman is. But I catch on with my mother, and she's quite thrilled to find out that I had a conversation with Uncle Pax. So, of course, clearly she knew who he was. And her words of advice were, well, keep the man close, and he can really take you places. And he completely changed my life because, like I said, I had found a mentor at a very young age. And this is around 1999, and he became my mentor in life and in business right up until his unfortunate passing in 2010. May his soul rest in peace. But from that encounter, moving forward, it was cast in stone that I was definitely going to be an entrepreneur in any case. But I did finish with my O-levels and I went to varsity. Now, even during my years at varsity, I already knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. And that's actually when I started to enterprise around 2007. And on having these conversations with my parents as well about this entrepreneurial journey that I'm going through. And they are concerned as loving and caring parents, of course. They've taken you through about 13 years of private schooling. You know, of course. They're not trying to have a conversation with you about business. It's a very tough conversation to have. But one thing that they did teach me as well is always finish what you start. So I started my varsity and I finished it. And then I just hung up my gloves and said, I'm not going to do a 9 to 5. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And now we're here.
So perhaps this venturing into entrepreneurship, did it have anything to do with your studies or the like?
Absolutely not. I graduated from a BSc geology. I'm a geologist by profession. So all my enterprises are completely parallel to what I studied.
Absolutely different.
Completely different. In 2007, when I was starting the business journey, I actually started with what I'm doing now, which is lending activities. Yes.
All right.
But at the time, it was casual and it wasn't licensed or anything. I was lending very small funds, about 300, 400, 500 to very close friends and relatives and classmates and so on and so forth. So basically, that's where it started. And we had to make a lot of sacrifices in the sense that we had an allowance of maybe, if I remember well, it was around 1,600 kula or so. And I was saving about 1,000 of that every month towards this business. So I clearly had a vision. And I understood that as an entrepreneur, you might just have to let go of certain things.
Of course.
Certain indulgences. So I was surviving below the 600 kula. But even though it didn't grow as fast as maybe it would have had to. I carried on a lot of lessons and principles from an experience like that, which one was definitely to save and how far saving can take you.
Of course.
And I'm still guided by those principles even today.
So very early on, you learnt about the issues of saving, how important that is for you and for your business. And then I also picked up the issue of sacrifice. You said that you had to see how to balance within that allowance, pushing your business whilst also surviving on the 600 that you had monthly. So there will be some times where we have to sacrifice.
Definitely, without a doubt.
Another takeaway, you said that when you met your mentor at 11, he said to you, you can do this, but chances are you'd have to venture into business.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that had quite an impact.
It did. It completely solidified my future as it is now. I've just always understood. But understand this: you're 11 years old, and you're getting this from someone who is, at the time, you're impressed by the car that he's driving. But of course, there's been an evolution in priorities. I mean, we're not thinking cars anymore. Now we're thinking about the welfare of our staff and our community and generational wealth and so on and so forth. But the principles really did remain the same, and even after his passing in 2010, I just took with him his memory and lessons from him and so on and so forth.
Wow. Yeah. Quite an inspiring story about the background and how you got into it. I think it was one of these golfers, one of these professional golfers. Apparently, his father saw that he had a talent at the age of 3. And from there it was nurtured. So you sort of had that head start too. At the age of 11, you knew what it is that you wanted to do, and you just went towards it.
It was always the case. It was cast in stone from such an early age.
Absolutely. No, that's great.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's get into the business. Affluent Wealth. Wealth. What have your highlights been? Tell us about this business, Affluent Wealth, and then tell us, of course, about maybe celebratory moments that you've had.
So Affluent Wealth is a business in lending activities, regulated by NBFIRA, of course. We offer personal loans up to 50,000 pula, and then we also extend GPOs, government purchase order financing, up to $250,000. And it was established about a year and a half ago.
Okay, so it's fairly young.
It's very young, and we've enjoyed quite phenomenal growth in that we have 7 branches across the country now. We have 5 here, we have 1 in Lovatz and 1 in Joining.
Wait, so this is how many branches in the space of 1
and a half years?
1.5.
Yes.
How many branches?
7.
Wow.
1 Lovatz, 1 Joining, 5 here, 5 Makaburu. And we have assembled a team of 17. It's still growing. We are targeting 10 branches before the end of 2021. And we estimate that by then we'll employ about 30 people. And so it's been quite a phenomenal journey, really. And I think of the things that I've just been highlighting, those are the small celebrations, small victories, and
absolutely
creating employment, and we also have mentoring programs and so on and so forth. And we've always understood that, the circumstances are going to change as businesses go. Like right now, we find ourselves in the midst of this COVID pandemic. Now, we've had people also come forward to us and say, I'm a debtor of yours, I'm a client of yours, but I think I may be on the brink of losing my job, which is very unfortunate. I think everybody's feeling that pinch right now. And how can you guys assist? And we have now developed a rehabilitation program to say, listen, you have lost your job, and this is how we can help you. We can mentor you into starting maybe a business that you're comfortable with. And now we've taken it into that route, because during lockdown we had picked up that a lot of Botswana had found their voice and their talent in maybe backyard gardening and so on and so forth. I mean, you're locked up and there's only so much you can do.
Of course.
So we've given them an opportunity to say, maybe just try horticulture and see how that goes for you. We'll finance you however we can. And we'll guide you however we can. And yeah.
All right, so kindly give us a picture of perhaps the problems that you solve at Affluent Wealth.
So we offer a wide array of services. At the top of it, which is of course also the most popular, is personal loans, which we with a ceiling of 50,000 per individual. Now these are services that we extend to anybody really who's formally employed. We allow them to make these payments over 5 to 12 month period, depending on whether or not we have a scheme with your employer. Yeah, and with quite low interest rates, which we can divulge on request to the client at the time. Yeah, and with very, very minimal requirements as well. And with the personal loans now, because of the problems that we are facing with body lockdown and so on and so forth, we have now gone in and developed our version of e-commerce, which is applications online. Yeah.
So if I'm short of funds, somehow I can get onto your website and apply?
You just go into the website and you make your applications, you'll upload the required documents, and within 24 hours you should have funds in your account if your loan has, of course, been approved.
That's great.
Yes, and then we have the GPO financing that I'm talking about, government purchase order financing, whereby you bring forward these documents with which you'd be required to supply, and we assist you as promptly as possible. That's a service that we're able to finance within 48 hours, because of course the assessment with that one is a little bit more thorough.
Yes.
But even the interest rates are quite competitive with the market rates, and we've been able to assist quite a number of people in that regard.
That one is, I think that one's very important, because you'll find a lot of us young business people here in Botswana, a major contributor to our revenues is, of course, government orders.
Yeah.
But you'll find yourself in a situation where you have a government order, but you don't have funds immediately available to finance that order and supply whatever it is that the government department would want.
Yeah.
So this is where you guys come in.
Definitely. You see, we like to encourage that as soon as you have that order with you, just give us a call, and within 48 hours we should assist you, because in some instances you're given about 7 to 14 days by that department to make your supply. Now we want to be in that journey with you from outside you from whoever is supplying you to their transportation, to the delivery, to the invoicing. We are your partners in that regard, and sometimes it takes time, so the sooner you're able to make your submissions, the better. And we also have another exciting product which is called credit bureau clearance, which you just find in some instances, as an individual, you owe person A, person B, person C, and sometimes how cool you can barely think, you can barely sleep really. You don't have peace of mind. You're getting multiple calls from different people at different times of the day. So usually what happens is we would consolidate those debts and basically just pay off those debts, and maybe you then have the opportunity just to deal with us. And if maybe you've now been blacklisted, we are able then to pay off that debt for you, so that you are delisted, and your life can go on as you please. You understand?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. No, that's quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So, you see, as entrepreneurs, we are multifaceted people. Is there anything that you are doing, perhaps, it might be development related, non-profit, or anything that your business might be doing to not necessarily push your services, but maybe to assist from the humanity level?
Yeah, definitely. My principle is very, very simple, right? I don't like to juggle too many balls at the same time.
All right.
So if we're going to do anything, it's definitely going to be within the scope of our current services. And up and beyond that, then it has to maybe be something that's going to assist the community.
Yes.
So I stay out of town. I'm not a city dweller, but I stay in a small village which is awash with poverty, really, sadly. And we are trying to see how we can assist some of the residents of that small settlement by trying to see how we can create employment and help them get into business and mentor them and so on and so forth. But beyond that, really, there's no other business that we're venturing into, especially that our business is at its infancy. I mean, 1.5 years for me is quite too soon to be diversifying into any other service.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a good insight.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, so hypothetically speaking, an example, if I'm an individual and perhaps I'm indebted to your organization, and then the COVID-19 pandemic hits, and I'm on the brink of losing my job, perhaps, is there any sort of recourse that your organization has in place?
Well, let me just tell you this. I don't believe that anyone walks through the doors of our offices in malice with the intention of acquiring a loan with no intention at all of paying it back. So we always understand that it's circumstantial, that maybe you're not in a position to pay us at a particular point. Now, of course, with the whole pandemic coming up, we've now become a little bit more cautious, of course, with extending our services. Because 1 minute you have a job and the next you don't. But if then you find yourself in a situation where you had already acquired a loan and then you do lose your job, we understand, and we want you to understand as well that we're in this together. And that is the rehabilitation program I just made mention of just earlier, where now we both acknowledge that this debt has got to be extinguished and that your life has to go on. You still need to eat, you still need to be housed, you still need to put clothes on your back and so on and so forth. That's when now we sit around the table and say to you, what is it that you're comfortable with? You just tell us what it is that we can assist you with. And then you have the liberty to say, well, I'm good at cooking and I'm along the stream. That's fine. You need funding, then we can assist you in that regard. And perhaps give you a better mentoring, maybe introduce you to someone who's done it before, and then you can carry on and pay off that debt, and up and beyond that you can still live your life as if nothing changed or close to, or just about. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's good that this rehabilitation program is available.
Yeah.
Perhaps let's get into your two biggest challenges as an entrepreneur. How have you overcome these challenges, and how would you advise people in a similar situation to overcome them?
We face challenges each and every single day in entrepreneurship. So it'd be hard to pinpoint any two, but I can tell you at the apex of the one problem that is prevailing now for us is perhaps legislation. And by that I mean there's this thing in microlending, it's called a deduction code. A deduction code basically is like your permit that allows you to deduct your monthly installments from Badirla Puso, parastatal, employees, and so on and so forth. Now, previously it had been something that was enjoyed by 2 or 3 organizations or unions, and now the matter has been taken before the court to say open it up to any microlender so that they can all compete on price. Which now we await it. But it has been a challenge in that regard that we were unable to have access to it, and then it was not giving us an entire market of about 200,000 civil servants. Yeah, but other than that, we're just facing day-and-day problems. Every microlender will tell you that the biggest challenge day-to-day is delinquent files, which is people not paying according to your agreement and so on and so forth, which can be quite detrimental to the business if left unchallenged. But I always want to remind anybody who is within the space of lending, whether it's someone within the banking facility, banking space, or just someone within the microlending fraternity, that you need to sometimes understand that the fact that people are defaulting sometimes isn't entirely their fault. Maybe it's just bad lending practices. So we have an array of documents that we always request from clients, and each of these serve a different purpose. So if now you give me your bank statements as I had requested, and I'm picking up that for the past 3 months, then I still advance a loan to you, then it's definitely my fault that then you're not going to be able to pay me. So
from a due diligence perspective, come on, how would you do that?
You understand?
Absolutely.
Definitely. So if you're in lending activities, maybe just do your job, just assessment, let it be thorough, and just be satisfied as well with this client, and then maybe you can assist them. You'll see a big difference in that space.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe a word of advice, anything you'd like to advise young entrepreneurs out there?
Many things I can mention.
That's great.
At the top of it, number one, find a mentor.
Okay.
Because experience is priceless, my brother.
Yes.
A mentor is going to save you a lot of trouble, in that there are just certain things you don't have to experience by yourself. I mean, if you have someone around, don't press that button, you're going to get electrocuted.
Yes.
And you won't get electrocuted if you don't have to find out yourself. And secondly, your health is very, very important if you're a person in business. I can tell you that. When I was starting out in 2007 at Varsity, I didn't have a car, but I still needed to service about, I don't know how many people. I mean, University of Mowana at that time maybe had about 20,000 students, and now you want to market yourself more whenever. So I had to work a lot. So physically, you have got to be sound. Your mental health is also very important. So pay your doctor all the time, don't forget. And then there's somebody else that you must never fail to pay, and that's the tax man.
Oh, yes.
So because today you have everything, tomorrow you have absolutely nothing. So just be compliant and have a good relationship with your regulator. Whatever field you're in, just have a very good relationship with your regulator.
All right.
So, and something else that's very, very important. If you have the opportunity to grow your business organically, please do so. If you have an opportunity to stay away from debt, please just do so. Because it could really cripple your growth. and that's not something that you want to experience really. So that would be my word of advice. And last but not least, I come from a Catholic family, so I pray. So never forget to pray.
Of course.
Even if you're not religious, just believe in something. You understand?
That's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So how can people access your services?
We have a website, www.affluentwealth.co.bw, and then we have an array of numbers that can be called for any of the offices really. But those you can find on the website as well.
Right.
Yeah, so that usually is how we extend our services to our clients.
Oh, that's wonderful, Mr. Phoi. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Wow, most welcome. Right, our 2-minute tip for today. We recently advised you to open a separate business account and separate your personal funds from your business funds. And when you go to financial institutions or banks, there are some basic documents that they'll ask of you. The first one being what we call a company extract. Now, you go onto the SEPA website and get a company extract, which will outline the directors of your firm, the shareholders, your company secretary, as well as the addresses of your business. Secondly, you will need a certificate of incorporation. This is also from the SEPA website, and your certificate of incorporation will basically show the bank that indeed your business is a legitimate entity. Number 3, you have to come up with what we call a 12-month cash flow projection. This basically shows to the bank that you anticipate to have this amount of income and this amount of expenditure for the next 12 months after you've opened the account. And then you need to formulate what we call a board resolution. Now, this board resolution is simply a document that will stipulate that the directors of your organization have undertaken to open a bank account on such and such a date. And then lastly, the average amount, of course, banks have different thresholds, but the average amount for you to open your bank account is 1,000 pula at the moment. So if you have that 1,000 pula, set it aside and then go to your bank and open this account. Once again, it's the company extract, certificate of incorporation, board resolution, 12-month projection, and then have that 1,000 pula. Go to the bank and they may ask for some more information, but that you can avail as and when possible. It's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for your time. From me, Big Budget, and the team, it's good night and God bless. And always remember that you were born for so much more.